example, cotton or soya beans is very dependent on the acreage that the ministries in America or in Australia or in Uzbekistan decide to grow the amount of cotton, and that will determine the basis of the price. The basis of the price, again, is dependent on, for example, in the US, it's called the Farm Bill. So the US Farm Bill determines the amount of subsidies that the US government is giving as an assured return on investment for the farmers. So that again affects the price. So I call ourselves we in Uzbekistan, when example 5 years ago, when we were selling our cotton to the global markets, we had to be very creative and innovative to challenge the pricing challenges. If the price was very high, it does not mean that we don't when prices are high, it doesn't mean that we couldn't sell, but people don't want to buy at the high price. We don't mind selling it lesser, but because the basis was pegged to an international price, we could not sell it cheaper. You get my point? It's a very paradoxical situation. So I think Cargill is very much family-owned business. It's the largest family-owned business in the world. Louis Dreyfus, I think, is followed by second. So, but the price.
EDF man, Raleigh Brothers, Philip Brothers.
Those are commercial. Those are very commercial. And possibly, like you're saying, like from the East India Company came these subdivisions of traders. One, the regulations of the rules was based on Liverpool for cotton at that time. Number one. Number two, the banks understood the transactions very well. So structured trade finance was readily available in Europe earlier than in Central Asia or Asia. Okay. So that promoted the ability to secure. Of course, you are very correct to say that because of their relationship of being a British company or being an American company, the historical relationship with the end producers was enabled them to further in those markets. Like, how would you expect a guy sitting in Burkina Faso, a guy sitting in Liverpool buying cotton from Burkina Faso? It's because of that historical.
Mombasa. Or Mombasa.
Hong Kong bust?
Mombasa.
Mombasa, yes, Mombasa, Ouagadougou, Bamako, these few places, it's hard to understand. But because of that ability to connect historically, and also it goes by regions. West Africa is controlled by French, East Africa, a bit of British. South America is still very much American. Some parts of Asia also, you will see that, for example,
cocoa markets and cocoa beans market.
Cocoa beans market.
Palm oil market.
Palm oil was very unique because Malaysian tried to be independent, but they could not. They could not have a very successful futures market. But they have a form of a futures market, but it was not in a big way. Malaysian palm oil is similar to Uzbek cotton. Similar. I would say.
The market is a little bit hard to enter to the producers, sellers, and traders and end users context. Am I right?
Yes. They have
the sugar markets, cotton market, sugar market, international gold market, little bit set up already.
Many years ago, I had a very naive thinking. I was saying, why we in Asia produce cotton and we cannot can negotiate about it. The UN also has, I mean, the WTO is related a bit to the UN in one way or the other. It's connected. So that WTO is more for dedicated for commercial purposes. It is an institutional commercial discussion negotiation platform. Now, on a lower level, when we talk about commercial negotiation between two parties, I want to buy this from you, you want to sell this from me, we negotiate, and then after the basis, we finalize the points of negotiation, we then draft a contract, that contract is signed, and we say, okay, this is final. So what I want to say is that now, from handshake, room discussion, long debates, we have moved to email discussions, multiple people in the emails deciding it. And then now you have COVID. So what happens when you have COVID? You can't shake a hand, you can't see a person. You can see the person through virtual, like what we are doing now. But it's not the same, is it? So it's the same thing where you come to buying something online, example, right? Some people still prefer to go to the shop to buy something, and other people still don't mind to buy it online. Okay, so what I think I can share with you my insights on the new norms of negotiation after COVID or during COVID, which goes on progressively, is that, look, everything will have to be clear and transparent. If you're not transparent, there will be, everybody will be second guessing another person. I will say, I think he's trying to do this thing, and doing it virtually will be an extremely long process. So what do we have as tools to overcome such things? Number one, we have got rules that has been designed a few years ago to manage such things, but have not been used in a big way. These rules was created by the United Nations for digital signatures, digital e-commerce. So there are some rules for these negotiations. You have got digital transformation in blockchain. Okay, I'm sure every one of you probably know blockchain better than me. So, but for just good order's sake, let me stipulate or just simplify the understanding of blockchain. So you imagine that there's a library, okay, where everybody puts filing systems in the library. And whenever you put a file into the library, everyone else can see that you have put a file. And when you take out that file or you amend that file, everyone will know that you amended that file. So it's a very transparent system. You can choose and select who you want to know, access that, can see that particular file, or it's a whole open platform. So that filing system, as I just mentioned to you, in the library of putting in information, is called your distributed ledger system or your open ledger system. It's up to you it's up to the people. So blockchain is one of a critical thing that will decide, and we are not talking about cryptocurrency yet, we're just talking about the act of blockchain. The act of blockchain is actually a very good way of, once you negotiate, because after you negotiate, you need to execute. Okay, and if there's a default on either party in this kind of modern digital times, we don't have the time to fly down and go and ask, hey, did you do this or did you do that, or can you show me this one bunch of papers and check one by one? It's too time consuming, right? So you either have a blockchain and you have an algorithm that you can actually manage to check on such things, or you would have to be very having, you know, your whole system that is based on smart contracts, payment platforms, even for e-commerce, you will have a matching algorithm built into your software to match what he wants and you wants to make it happen. Okay, so I'm not saying that the future of negotiation is going to be controlled by AI. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that digital technology has enabled blockchain and things like that to negotiate and to determine outcomes. Okay, very important is to determine the outcome of any negotiation. On an ending note, I would like to just share with you that in China, as I was mentioning to you regarding blockchain, China's court of laws have passed rules and regulations that allow blockchain to be final as part of the negotiation. That means whatever has been done, if it's available in blockchain and it's provable, what was done in that, whatever that is in the blockchain to show who is right or wrong, that is final. There is no arbitration, no nothing. Okay, even if it's a foreigner who is winning the case in China based on blockchain, he will win it. There is no ability for influencing the courts to change the decision based on, oh, this is a Chinese company, we should support a Chinese company. Why I'm saying this? Because rules and the basis of rules is very important in a negotiation, because tomorrow after you negotiate the deal, how do you ensure that this deal is being upheld, this deal is being honored? Because you have rules. So if your rules is not strong, credible, or acceptable by everybody, then whatever you negotiate is a waste of time. So with that, I think I shared with you some of my personal experiences. From my LinkedIn page, you will be able to read on the one of the publications that I have is on the Brazilian, US Brazil Upland WTO negotiations and arbitration award. Okay, with that I end my short discussion, and you feel free to ask me questions. Hello, hello, can you see me? Anyone there? Hey guys. Are you guys there? Hello. Oh, thank you. Okay, no, because I feel free to ask me any questions you have. Regarding what top 3 books could you recommend to be reading on arts of negotiation? I think, you know, books are not really applicable. I mean, you can find, you know, deal of art, negotiation, then stuff. I think it would be good to study case studies, you know, like I mentioned, WTO case, read about that between Brazil and US. It would be good that you could read on the Iran nuclear deal between the US and Iran. It would be good for you to read the second round of the deal with North Korea and the US. All right. So that's my answer to your 3 books. I think those are more useful. Anything else?
I wanted to ask you to share about your experience being active on different international talks over the position of different nations in WTO platform. So kind of so your experience, your understanding, political and economic talks of different players and actors from experience as you've seen it in the process, how they shape their position and how they try to involve for negotiation and integration process. Just to share your vision and your experience and understanding.
Just to, uh, I, I, I couldn't catch your question, bro.
So my
You,
question was about your experience, how you see it from your experience about the positions of joining nations to the WTO or other international influential strong economic institutions, the political or economic positions and conditions as you see, just from your experience.
okay. Uh, Joining things like into the WTO and negotiating on the WTO platform would be, I mean, it would be the good thing about the WTO is that there is a basis already. Okay, there is already a basis. It was already founded for a few years, but institution like WTO today is not a key area of, how do you say, cooperation, or it is a basis that is a general, like these are the can and cannot do in trade. So everyone, naturally, it is basically to prevent the big superpowers from bullying the small guys. It is just a basis for that. So, but there is some basis at least, right? Without that, there is no basis. Now, if you want a better deal, then you will have to go bilateral deals or, by economic bloc deals. So I think leverage, as I mentioned, the right word is leverage. How do you leverage and get the votes or get the support to push a certain thing through? Okay. For a small country like Lesotho, going into the WTO, it will not make much of a difference. Okay, where it's least developed country, it is landlocked, it is I'm just giving you a realistic approach. For a country like Uzbekistan in WTO, it has its very good benefits. You know, at least, of course, in the last few years, WTO has not been as effective as it was before. But what are you gaining from the WTO? A basis. It is better to have a basis than no basis at all. And you need a one-stop shop basis with the whole world. A basis. Without that basis, you have no negotiations at all. There's no rules. So this is a first step to it. I think it's a very positive move for Uzbekistan and for other countries who are severely dependent on exports and imports as well for their economic survival. There's a basis. I hope that answered your question.
And how do you see the importance of the negotiations as a process? How do you see the importance and significance of negotiations in that process as negotiator?
As a it's a tough job to negotiate, because whoever that is sitting on that team to negotiate has to do a thorough case assessment study on what it's when you go into a negotiation room, you already must know what you want in the short term, what you want in the mid-term, and what you want in the long term. You must also know what your opposition is able to give you at his level, sitting in that chair. If he cannot decide who he has to go and ask for approval to decide, whether it is a governmental parliamentary issue or whether it's going to be a singular negotiator, it is very tough job to be a negotiator. Believe me, when you are a negotiator, you are sandwiched in between. okay, between the wants of your country and the wants that are realistically able to be achieved. Okay. Now, it is a highly critical element in today's negotiations that the people who go for negotiations know what.
Well, something like something going with that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, it hang for a while. So it is a very important job, and it comes with experience. Okay, to negotiate effectively, it comes with experience, and you need to understand the subject matter very, very clearly, and its impact and its underlying issues. If you don't understand the subject matter, and you need to understand the subject matter from a global perspective, you cannot be understanding it from your home domestic country alone. And to get that, you need to read a lot. You need to take the opinions of people in the same industry, but not in the same sector as well. You need to find at all levels, and you need to cross-reference it with the legal standing, whether what is demanded or what is dictated is correct versus is it realistic, you know. I hope that covers it, sir.
And another question, dear Ram, I wanted to ask you about if we speaking about the Malaysian experience of joining WTO, what was the most important advantage of Malaysia joining WTO? What was the gain of Malaysia in Malaysia's history, Malaysia's experience of joining this important organization like WTO?
Wow, just ascension to WTO was actually very important. It covered many things. Basically, we have a huge Chinese neighbor. We have we are very heavily involved in foreign trade, so we needed regulations under that. And basically, you know, preferential trade agreements can only exist after you have had a WTO membership. So without a WTO membership, you will never go on to the next stage of having preferential. See, we are in a special trade agreement zone with ASEAN. Malaysia is also in a preferential agreement with the European Union. They are sorry, preferential. Malaysia has preferential agreement with China, zero duty to China for all Malaysian produced goods. We have preferential agreement with Australia and New Zealand. We have preferential agreement with Singapore. All these preferential agreement would not have been possible without the initial clearing of WTO membership. Okay, so that is the importance of being part of a WTO. It is like your basic membership card before it is your Visa card. You know, your basic Visa card before you can get your platinum Visa card. In my opinion.
I see. A very good comparison, because that is something which comes very clear, very simple, and very understandable. So, dear Ram, if our colleagues, dear students, do you have any questions? Hey guys, do you have any questions to ask, to raise? So, dear Ram, if we don't have any questions, thank you very much for such fantastic opportunity and greatest chance to listen to you as a very prominent expert and specialist of this field.
Thank you.
The field of international talks, because there's no business without talks and without negotiation. Consider you a serious prominent expert of the field of international negotiation, international economics, and analyst of this field. Thank you very much for giving our young.
Are we going to have any more lessons with you? I'm not sure. We have to check.
They are listening, but they're a little bit shy. in my vision, in my understanding, that this book is little bit shy to raise to us here. So,
No problem. I've given a link in the chat. That chat so that they can read about the WTO case that I was talking about. It will be
uh,
useful for them. Okay.
Sultan Chana thanks you for
Yes.
that interesting lecture. And
Thank you.
students are typing, we see. So, frankly speaking, dear Ram, I consider you my personally, knowing your experience, your expertise in this field, that is a great chance to our young students and listeners to listen to you as a professional in the field of international business, international economics, international trade, and negotiations. We have many things to share with our researchers.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this chance. Okay, and it's every time is a great pleasure for us to have you to listen to your experience, your expertise. And I hope, as I yesterday spoke with the rector's office, I
Mhm.
hope that it's not the last your lecture or discussion with us. And I hope that you will find any chance, any opportunity to continue with very fine tradition we're starting now together with you. The Malaysian experts, the Malaysian partnership with Uzbekistan are strong, very competitive, and important because you have anything to share with Uzbekistan.
I think they're smart. They do a lot of smart partnerships. Malaysian. I'm not saying they're intelligent, but I'm saying that they did a lot of collaboration, smart collaboration. Yeah.
So, sir, thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this chance.
Have a good day,
Thank
brother.
you. Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Thank you.
Bye.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Dr. Rahman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kau diskutkan sama Miss kita Syam tu apa?